Hello and welcome to Falafel TV. This session is going to be about how to use TFS with TestComplete 7. We'll see how we'll be able to use the source control system and also reporting bugs against a specific project inside of TFS directly from TestComplete. So first of all, I wanted to show you that when we create a project inside of TestComplete, let's say for instance we're going to call it project 1, we're going to use the JScript language, we'll say create in there. The first thing that I can do to make sure that my project that I created here called project 1 is part of a source control system, and let's say I want to use TFS, if I say file, source control, you will notice that I have the ability of adding the entire project suite or the entire project in here. Of course, I didn't set up anything yet, so the first thing I'm going to do when I say, for instance, add the project, there is a little window that will come up in here. And for a lot of you that have sent me emails saying, why is my dialog completely empty in here? That's because out of the box, none of the SCC providers that will work with any provider out there, whether it's Subversion, whether it's TFS, or SourceSafe, or any of the other source control system, they are not installed by default on your machine. So how do we actually get all these SCC providers installed? This is something that you will need to maybe Google on that and find out where is your provider available and download on your machine. Okay, so for right now, let's go ahead and find out how we can get the TFS SCC provider installed on our machine. So the best thing to do is to go for something, for instance, like Google, and I've searched here for SCC provider TFS 2008 download, and you'll get some stuff coming back. The one I'm interested in is the one from Microsoft that says download details Visual Studio Team System 2008 Team Foundation. If you click on that, you should see from the Microsoft download area there is an MSS CCI provider specifically for Team Foundation System 2008, and that's the one that you will need to install on your machine. It's actually a pretty small download, it's about a meg, but without it, unfortunately, you will not have a provider for SCC available on your machine. So let's download this guy on your machine in here. Start the download. Make this resolution a little bit smaller so everybody can see. And there it is, we'll say save that. And there is one meg already installed. So let's go ahead and run this installation on our machine. We'll say next. We'll say I agree. Next. We'll install this one under the program files. We'll let everybody use it. That's fine. And we'll say next. And that should take less than a few seconds here to install the SCC provider on my machine. And we should be good to go really quickly. And there we go, the installation finished. It was successful. I'm going to say close there. I don't need Chrome anymore. It's my default browser on this machine. So let's go ahead and see if now we can go to File, Source Control, Add Project, and all of a sudden now when we go to the Select SCC Provider, the Microsoft Team Foundation server is available for TestComplete to choose from. So this is great. It looks like we are on our way. I'm going to say OK there. And now I will be able to actually go ahead and connect to whatever server I have as far as TFS. You can install TFS, of course, on your servers at work, or you can use a TFS server for a hosting. We have a pretty good partnership with a company called TeamDevCentral. That's their website. It's Rational Eyes, actually, that you can take a look at that. But if you go to www.teamdevcentral.com, you will see this is a hosting TFS site. It works very well and it's extremely fast, and I would recommend, if you don't want to hassle with TFS on your servers and install Exchange and SharePoint and TFS itself and all the other requirements and maintain the stuff, it takes few minutes for you to be up and running on TeamDevCentral. So I would definitely recommend you take a look at that as well. One of the things that you can do, of course, is that you can click on servers in here, and you'll be able to add whatever TFS server you want to hook up to. If you're a consultant like me, that means you're not only using one TFS, you're probably using several for different customers that you have. So you can actually have an entire list of different TFS servers that you're hooking up to. So for instance, here I have my own TeamDevCentral, which is hosted for us. I can actually enter the name of the HTTPS, the URL for the sandbox that we're using there, and the port number. All this information you'll get from the hosting company, or if it's your own TFS system, your IT department should be able to definitely give you all this information. You can click on add in here, add whatever URL for the TFS server that you have or hosting, put the port number that's being used, and specify the protocol, whether it is HTTP or HTTPS. Okay, so for ours here will be the hosting one on TeamDevCentral. All right, let's close this guy. We'll say OK there. The next one is we'll be able to enter our username and password. So let me log in here to our TeamDevCentral. We'll say OK. All right, and that is going to establish the connection. And as you can see, we are connected to that server at TeamDevCentral. I have one project in there to test with. I'm going to open up this plus sign, and you'll see that the TDC project 248 has been created for me. So with this information here, I can create a new folder underneath that if I want to. We'll create this one. We'll say test complete test. Oh, there you go. And type a name for the solution folder. We'll come in here. We'll say TC solution. Alrighty. And you'll notice that the local workspace is on my machine here is called Lino Alienware. That's the name of my machine. And the local path is, I'll leave it exactly what it is right now. We'll say OK there. Alrighty. We'll go ahead and log in again. All right. Now you can see this is coming from TFS system itself. I'm actually trying to enter a comment in here for the project.mds file. The MDS extension, of course, is the XML representation of the project file for TestComplete. So I will be checking in my files now. I'm going to say check in this guy. And now this is the KDT, which is the keyword testing check-in file. You will only need to do these things for all the files for the project the first time you do this. After that, you will only be checking out or checking in things that have changed only. So now we'll enter our JScript file. Actually, this is the TC script file itself that defined where the scripts are all on my machine. And that is my first JavaScript file, which is called unit1. So as you can see here from the tree view, whatever creates all the files in this project one will need to be checked in. Of course, you don't have to check all of these things. You can uncheck them from here, say I don't care about these files. Some of them you do not want to check in sometimes because it will cause some problems with the rest of your team. For right now, I'm just going to show you that I'm going to be checking in maybe about 7 or 8 files into my project in here. This is the name mapping file, which is an XML file as well. I'm going to be checking that one in. This is an important file as well to check in because you want only one person on your team to be involved or responsible for the name mapping file. Otherwise, it will be a total mess between everybody on the team. And this is my stores. Stores is actually also the file that is responsible for telling us where everything is in the stores directory as far as checkpoints for images, for files, for databases, and so on. So we're going to be doing this for few ones of those. There is a regions here. This is for the images. All right, so that we don't have to wait. I usually want to turn on all of them. I'm going to say, actually, let's keep going. I wanted to show you what happens at the end of this dialogue. I know some of you might say, like, it would be nice to actually have a checkbox here that says check everything in and get it over with, but that's the enterprise version. All right, I'm just kidding. No. All right. That's the database checkpoints being checked in. This is the tables, which is the grids the checkpoints. This is the XML checkpoints. Web testing checkpoints. and tested apps. Okay, we're done. Now notice that test complete would put actually an icon on the left side of every single project items in here to show you that these have now been associated with TFS. So this is definitely a very good thing in here. So if I go to project 1, as you can see, go to source control, you notice here that a lot of other things have been turned on for me. I can check in. Check out is actually turned off because they're identical. There is nothing different in any of these files. But notice also if I go to here for unit 1, for instance, there is my code. If I change this to say log.message hello team dev central, if I do something like this and I'm going to save my file, you probably notice that this file now probably will need to be checked in. So if I go in here and I go to source control, you'll notice that check-in is enabled for me. So I can actually put a comment saying new changes from Lino. And the only file that will be checked in is the unit1.sj, which is the JavaScript version of this file. We'll say OK there. And it will show me what exactly is going on. And these are my changes coming in here. Will they check in? And it's done. As you can see in here, all the stuff has been taken care of and my file is checked in. So this is great to know that now everybody on the team that have the same access to my team Foundation server can check out files, can check in, and can actually manage the entire project with source control extremely well with all the benefits of TFS. Okay, the only thing left is for us to actually hook up TestComplete to TFS for bug reportings for the work items instead of TFS itself. It would be nice in case something goes wrong in any of our test results, instead of having to copy and paste stuff and put them in TFS separately, wouldn't it be nice to actually be able to right click and say take that test result, for instance, and put it straight into a work item bug report inside of my project in TFS. That will make it so much easier to do all that stuff. So for instance, here I have the log.message. If I run this specific code, notice everything is in the green. It was successful. If this by any chance have caused any kind of error, let me force an error here for a second. And if I run this, let's say for instance that logged some remarks and some pictures, and there is a whole set of errors that happen in here. Instead of having to copy and paste this information and put it in TFS, you will notice that there is a right click on the log items that it says create issue. For TestComplete 7 and above, you won't be able to really say create issue in here inside of a specific log on a specific item. It needs to happen on the project level or the project suite level. See, if I click for instance on the create issue here, there will be an error that's saying you can create an item in the issue tracking system either from the project suite or from a project log. And don't let that confuse you. They just didn't want you to log in that from inside of a specific log item in here. So we will see how to do that in a second. For right now, other than all the work we've done for the source control setup for TFS, you will need to go to the Tools menu. Notice the third item down is called Issue Tracking. There is two things we'll need to do. First one is the Connection Manager, and the final one will be the Template Manager. Let's go ahead and hook up the Connection Manager for a second. I don't have any servers established for the connection here, so I'm going to add a new one. We'll give it whatever name we want. We'll call it TFS, for instance. It's fine. And you have the choices between AQ Dev Team, Visual Studio Team System, which is TFS, or Bugzilla. In our case in here for this video, we're going to use TFS, the second option there. We'll say next. And now there is a little bit of a tricky stuff that we need to be careful with. It's not like the source control setup, for instance, which it had a dialog that allowed me to enter HTTPS or HTTP and the port number and all that stuff. So here you would really have to remember this first, for instance, has to be an HTTPS for our TeamDevCentral. If your installation for TFS does not require HTTPS, which is rare. A lot of companies will, 99% of the time, will use HTTPS for doing that kind of stuff. You can actually put whatever your IT team will tell you what the where the URL is. In our case in here will be sandbox2.teamDevCentral .com, and I'm going to be putting our port number in here, 8081, for getting into there. Okay, so that's the first one. It has to be an HTTPS in the beginning, and the port number for 8081 is in there. The login. So far, if you noticed, my login had the domain name, / and my username. For the connection, unfortunately, if you need that yellow note that they have put in here in TestComplete 7, that you cannot have actually the domain name in the beginning here. So I'm going to delete this guy from here, and I'm just going to leave my username as is without the domain name. So you see there is a little bit of difference really between the connection to TFS as far as issue tracking and the one from source control system. And I'm hoping maybe in the future there will be one connection that can be used between the two. For right now, that is not the case. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and enter my password in here, and once I say next, it will try to hook up to the server right now, and it did. It found out all my projects are in there. We'll say finish there, and now as you can see, my Team Foundation server and the type and the URL and everything is being placed in here with no problem. So I'm going to say OK there. I know now that half the job is done. My tools, issue tracking, connection manager is correct. The only thing left for me is to create a template manager. Let me explain what a template manager is needed for. Once I clicked on that, it has an invalid create work item, and that's normal because we haven't set a template manager before. So let's go ahead and edit this guy and make it work for us. So what is the name for this one? You can actually call it whatever you want. I'm going to leave it as create work item. That's a good name for it to understand that we're training a bug report. It can also be create bug item. You can call it whatever you want. The description, again, enter the description of whatever you'd like in here. The important part comes from number 3 and 4, which is the connection and the project. I have not associated a connection inside of the template manager. So let's go ahead and click on this button in here, and you will notice that there is a TFS setup already that I just created in the previous step. I'm going to say OK there. Now I have a correct TFS connection, and now if I click on the project item, it will open up that connection and will show me all the projects that I'm allowed to actually get to. So once I click on that, you will notice that there will be a lot of different things in here from that server, and I know that mine is 248. I actually don't have access to all the other ones. If I choose them, that will not work. So it has to be 248. And now I get to choose the item type. So it will now open the connection and the project number 248 for specifying the item type. So let's click on that. It's actually connecting now to the back to the server, opening that project, and it hopefully soon will show me all the different things. So all the work items available are the bug, the quality of service requirements, scenarios, tasks, and risk. If you're familiar with TFS, you will understand all the different work items available in TFS. In our case in here, we know this is going to be a bug reporting for the issue tracking inside of TestComplete. We'll choose bug and we'll say OK. All right. The thing that is left for us to do is to understand what is this template field is. Okay, so when I right click on my script log and I say, for instance, log this as a bug into TFS, what does that mean as far as taking the caption, the image, the remarks, the title of the bug? How is it going to get all that stuff? Well, the two minimum templates that are needed as fields are the subject and the description, and this is your way of actually specifying what are the fields inside of TFS that match the subject and the description in TestComplete, because it might be called subject in TestComplete, but it's called title in TFS. They might be both called subject. We don't know yet because, again, this is the same dialog for all the other systems as well, not only TFS. So we're going to go into this item field. We'll click on this guy, and that will actually open up the TFS project, and it will show you all the different names of the fields in TFS. See, all these things are coming from TFS itself. And we're going to actually look at which one we want to map to the subject in TestComplete. So if we've done this right, hopefully you can see here there is no subject, so it might be called title. So there it is. Subject in TestComplete is title in TFS. So we'll say OK there, and now it's set. Well, let's go to description, and that will open up the dialog one more time. And I will be able to actually see, for instance, if there is description. Yes, description is description between the two products. That's good. These are the two minimum ones that will be needed. I can actually add more. I can actually add in here another item, and I can say maybe reported against or reported by, and we can be able to tell it which one that is between the two systems as well. So it doesn't really have to be a specific subject and description only. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Let's say, for instance, priority right there. Let's click on priority. We'll say OK, and we'll make this enable. So what is the value? Value means when I right click and say reported, what do you want to see in the subject, description, and priority? That's actually a little bit of a confusing part, because people think like, why would I actually enter a value here? It will take maybe the message, making it the subject, and the remark will make it description. No, this is not actually how it works. The way it works, it actually anything reported from TestComplete straight into TFS automatically like this will take whatever value you're going to be putting in here, unless you do this programmatically, which I will show you later on how to do that. But if I go to value, for instance, subject, I can say bug reported from TC automatically. You can actually be pretty imaginative and find out what you want to actually put in here. Okay, description, C attachment. So that means every single bug reporting automatically will have a subject that says bug reported from TC automatically and a description that says C attachment. Why did I say the word C attachment in here? All these are strings. Because actually the way TestComplete will do this, it will package the entire remarks, images, and the entire content of the bug report straight from the test results, and it's put it as an attachment available in TFS right away. Okay, so this is also important to know. Again, you can add as many as you want of the templates by clicking on add in here, and you can move them up and down and sort them however you'd like to do that. So we'll say OK there. No value is specified for priority template field. Do you want to keep it empty? Yes. I mean, you don't have to actually enter a value, but at least it will warn you whether it's in there or not. I know that the priority will be passed on in the attachment, but the value will not be in there if I didn't enter one. It's a good idea, of course, to say that anything coming from TestComplete should be a high priority, for instance. So you can actually put high in here, and that will work as well. All right. We'll say, okay, there is a warning here because we did get a warning. One of the fields, which is priority, was not there. That's fine. It will still work. We'll say okay there. And now let's go ahead and go to our project and add a new item in here in TestComplete. And I am going to tell it to run main. And now every time I'm going to go ahead and run this application, it will actually run the test. And there is the test. One of them failed because I did an error in there. And the good thing now, if I right click on this guy and say create issue, if we've done our work correctly, okay. So in reality, you can choose priority, like I said, or you can choose any of the other field that you want to associate the TFS and TestComplete with. A lot of people use resolved by and submitted by, the priority, the reason. There's a lot of things that you can choose from here. For right now, just to make it simple, I'm just going to leave these two in here as is. And I want to talk to you about what value is all about, because this is a little bit confusing to understand what exactly are we trying to accomplish here. What we're trying to accomplish here, folks, is that every time I'm going to right click, for instance, here on my script test log, and being able to right click and say create issue, it's not going to take actually the message that got logged and the remarks and the picture and create each and every one of these things in its own field. What TestComplete does, it actually takes the entire thing and increases an attachment to the bug report. So every time I'm going to actually do a create work item or create issue from inside of TestComplete, whatever I'm going to set in the value here for subject and description or any of the other field that I'm going to choose later on, this is what's going to actually appear in TFS. So I'm going to come in here and say something reported automatically by TC, for instance. That means even if I report 10 different bugs, they're all going to have the same exact subject. So this is something that you need to be aware of. Of course, I can show you later how to do this programmatically so that you can actually create the subject and description in code as soon as an error occurs and you want to report it TFS in code. But using the visual template in here these will be the same for all of them. So in description, for instance, we'll say, please see attachment. Okay, we'll say okay there, and you'll notice it's in the clear now. It's in the green. We'll say okay, and now I have actually everything I need to make this work. As I've said, if you right click on this guy and say create issue, you will always get this error that says you are not allowed to do this from inside of a test item. You need to do it from the project or the project suite. So let's go to the project in here. Double click on the project. You'll see that all your test items are empty. I'm going to create one really quickly. That means it will run the main function in my unit. And now I can actually run it from here from the editor or run it from here. As long as we have at least one item, I can run this whole thing. So we'll run it right there, and you'll notice it will create another test result, and it will have one error in it because I logged an error, so that's correct. And now I can actually right click on the project one and I can say create issue. Okay, so when I create issue there, aha, I'm actually glad that we got this this error. A lot of people on the forums and also on the SQA forum are getting this, and it doesn't make any sense why I'm getting this problem. So let me explain to you what's happening in here. I'm going to click on OK here for a second. And if I go to Tools, Issue Tracking Template Manager, remember this guy that we created? We got a green light here that this was perfect. Well, the issue here is that the project itself, project one that was created before we actually created this template, did not get the memo. So if I double click this project, you will notice that the issue tracking template for my project is still pointing to something that is not correct. And unfortunately, when I right clicked and says create the issue, it used the one associated with the project, not the global one available from the template manager for the project. So every time you get this item.reason or reasons error, that's probably there is a confusion between which template the project is supposed to be using. So click on the project and make sure in the issue tracking template this is set correctly. So you can actually edit this one or create a new one. I'm just going to go ahead and edit this one in here. See, I was using different kind of templates in here. I'm just going to delete this. Just make it identical to what I had before. Notice it does not use any connection. I'm going to tell it to use the correct one in here. And in the project, we'll do the project 248 like we've done before. There it is. And the project type will be the bug. So I'm making it identical. Of course, the nice thing to do here is that when you create the project, this template has already been there, so you won't have any problem. The reason why we saw the problem is that I already had a project created in the Project Explorer, and then I went and created the template. That's why people are getting this error. Alrighty. So I'm going to say OK there. Put in for the item field. We need to associate the subject with the title and the description with the description like we've done before. Would have been probably easier just to create a new project, but I'm glad you get to see the problem and why is it happening. So that is my title. We'll say description. And there is our description. And we'll come in here for value and say blah, blah, blah. And the description will blah, blah, blah. All right, sounds good to me, just to show you what the problem is. Again, if I close this and create a brand new project, it will take the template straight from where the tools template manager is. Okay, let's go back to our test in here and see what happens when I right click and say create an issue this time. Notice like something is going on at this time. It's actually taking everything I have in the test log, the remarks, the picture, the call stack, all the information regarding this, and is putting it straight into our DevCentral bug reporting work item, and the log was exported to an issue successfully. Isn't that cool? So this should be actually easy to do. Let's go ahead and find out actually if this actually happened. Okay, now let's go ahead and open up something like Visual Studio that have Team Explorer built into it. And there is Visual Studio, and then it's Team Explorer. Just open up your project, again on my TeamDevCentral in here. And if we go to the active bug, you will see all the active bugs, and that is the bug that I just entered into the system right now. And in here you'll see the description. All the stuff happened automatically, okay? and I set the history, the links if there are any, and the important part is the file attachment. Notice that TestComplete created the MHT, which is readable by Internet Explorer. It's the hypertext, it's multi-part hypertext, so you can see the entire report. So if you want to see from Visual Studio what this is, double click on this file, and we'll say log in into our TeamDevCentral. Notice I'm in Chrome, so Chrome will not understand what this is. I will need to open that inside of Internet Explorer for this to make sense. And there it is, we'll say save. If I click on this MHT file, we'll open up Internet Explorer, and Internet Explorer knows how to actually open up the MHT file and reads it. And it's nothing but an XML file with a lot of different XSLT translation layers. So I can see now in a browser my entire test result. And again, where is this coming from? You will notice this is an MHT file as a file attachment to my bug report. If this had images and remarks and call stack and all the stuff will show up directly into the MHT. So your R&D team will be able to see exactly what happened. And notice that the title, the gibberish between that and the description are all the different things we have actually entered straight from the template that we created. But let me also at the end here show you how you can do the same thing in code. Let's go ahead and open up the unit 1. Instead of actually doing everything in the project by right-clicking in here and saying create issue, of course, to do something like this, you will have to wait till the entire test runs. Sometimes these tests take 6, 7, 8 hours to run, and you will not be able to do this until somebody comes in here and saying create issue. Although you would like to report the bug immediately as soon as it happens. So the way to do this, instead of logging in here, we can actually show you a line of code. There is an object built inside of TestComplete called issue tracking. Notice it turns into navy blue, so it's a recognized object inside of there. I'll say dot, and you'll notice that the name that you created for that for the template is called create work item. Whatever you have created, it will be right in there. We'll say create work item. If you do Control Shift Space, it will show you all the different parameters that needs to be passed to the specific function name, which is create work item. So the first one is an object of the subject, and the second one is an object of the description. So it will be easy enough for me here to come and say something like my subject from code. I mean, this is just an example to show you how to do this stuff, but this could actually be a variable that can be passed in here in case of an error. So you will have an if statement. If an error occurs, you want to do an issue tracking, not create work item, and put something here as a variable meaningful to the application itself so that it can be logged in instead of using the template coming in from the tools options there. And for the description, you can fill in also again using a different variable. In here, I'll say my description. Just like that. Doesn't really matter what it does for right now. And let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. If I run this code in here, see the playback is running. It's trying to actually put that in the TFS using whatever the tools option connection and project is identified. And there is no message. I didn't log any errors or any messages, but it was successful, as you can see in here. If I go back and open up my Visual Studio, and let's go ahead and refresh that. Probably will get a little. Let's start this earlier. So that's why there's a message here. Is there a refresh here? No. Okay. And here we go. So now I got my. By the way, the error that I'm getting here, this is because I installed some different things on my computer here, and I have a problem in my GAC as far as the TFS is concerned. This should not be the problem for you. The issue here is I have TFS 2010 on my machine, and it changed something in the GAC for me for version 9.0, so this should not be a problem for you at all. Anyway, so when I refresh my active bugs in here, you'll notice that the one that actually got generated from the code is right there, and there is my description in here. My file attachment, there is nothing because there was no report at all, so it's just a description. And notice that the title says my subject from code, so that automatically happened straight based on the line of code that I added in here for the issue tracking .create work item. All right, well, I hope this video, although a little bit long, but gives you an idea of how to make this whole thing work. And I hope you enjoyed it and got a good idea of how to hook up TFS to TestComplete. Thank you very much and have a great one.